Character design. The very first thing that gives us all an impression of who your character is. Character design is an unlimited thing that can actually be done in any way you want, using any method you want. And this video is my way of sharing the methods that I personally use. My goal here is to inspire you to think of as many options as possible, while also being able to make decisions that are right for your character. Now there are two main starting points I go to when designing a character. The first way is when you've come up with a character in your mind, but you have yet to actually draw that character. The second way is when you don't have a character in mind, but you are able to see visual elements that you want to piece together in order to make a design. It's kind of like using Mii Maker. When you're presented with two options at the start, you can select Start from Scratch, which would be creating the character you already have in mind, or you can choose a look-alike, which will start you off with a design that already exists, but you are able to customize infinitely. So, let's go over the first option and start from scratch. Let's say you have a character in your mind, and now you need to figure out how to draw them. The first thing I like to do in this case is simply just write down everything I already know about the character. Describe their appearance, their personality, their background. Get into as much detail as you can with this. The more detailed you can be in your description, the more you'll understand who your character is. Almost like writing a Wikipedia profile for them. This way lets you organize your thoughts and give yourself some sort of reference, even if it's just writing. So based on what you know and have written about your character, you're going to want to choose features that will align with conveying their personality. Certain shapes and colors are often associated with different characteristics. The typical shape consensus is, round shapes are known as friendly and adaptable, like a ball of clay. Blocky shapes are sturdy and dependable, like a concrete block. Sharp angles are more harsh and unpredictable, like a knife. Which means everything is based on symbolism. Is your character someone who cuts through things? Are they edgy or quirky? Maybe their emotions are spiky. Are they bubbly or soft? Do they go with the flow? Or are they very structured and solid? Maybe you want to show that a character is strong or steady, or that they're difficult to move. And using a balance of these features is also really important, simply for balancing out your character's shapes and features, because working with only one shape can be very limiting, and choosing a certain color palette that matches your character can imply what their tone is. One main way I like to keep this in mind is through warm and cool colors. Natural human skin tones, such as browns, pinks, reds, and yellows, are all considered warm colors. Warm colors are ones that pop out, so we can think of them as extroverted. They seem to take up more space and project outward, while cool colors seem to draw things in, as if they're more introverted or reserved. This is why hazard signs, caution signs, and signals are always red, yellow, and orange, because these are the colors that pop out and get everyone's attention. Because of this, it is extremely common to find warm colors in most character designs. And finding a character with a completely cool color palette is less common. My character Casual almost falls into this category from first glance, but underneath his hair he actually has red eyes. This is because it's normal to want to balance cool with something warm that pops out on the design. And if your character has a human skin tone, it automatically includes a warm color. Although there are some completely cool palettes that exist in characters, and it can make them look pretty unique for this reason. There are all kinds of connections to be made between colors and what they represent in a character. Take some time to think about what these colors mean to you, and take a look at what they represent in real life. This way, you can also form your own thoughts and associations, and understand the ways you want to use colors to represent features in characters. I find that I've created somewhat of my own color correlations, which will definitely have overlap with the general consensus, but feel free to pause and take a look at these. And I'll save some time with this chart, rather than explaining every single color in detail. It can also be helpful to not take colors so literally. And what I mean by this is, say you have a character who's white, like Doily for example. Well, he's not actually white, as in color code FFFFF. He's actually yellow, but it's easy to read him as white. And I did this because using the literal color white would result in him being much too bright, and it would look unnatural for his character. So just because you're working with a particular color doesn't mean you have to use exactly what the color is in order to get it across. And you can do this with any of your character's colors. So depending on the energy your character conveys, these are all helpful ways to find a palette that really suits them or one that can balance them out. Another example to see these features in use can be seen with these two of my characters, and I'll go over my thought process with you. Paddi is a character with round features, with a predominantly warm pastel-based color. She has large oval eyes with round eyebrows and eyelashes, and a small mouth with curved lips. These are all features that make her appear to be safe, friendly, adaptable, and cute. As a way to add balance to her shape, she also has a few pointier objects, such as the flowers on each side and her feet. And giving her green accents complements her pink base color, with a small bit of yellow complementing the slight shades of purple as well. And on the opposite end of this, we have a character like Leech, someone who is long, slender, muscular, and angular. He has a cool base color and half-lidded eyes with sharp eyelashes, tiny pupils, a wide mouth, no lips, and slender eyebrows. His fins and ears are pointed, and the accessories that go with him are piercings. All these are things that will imply Leech is more dangerous, mischievous, chaotic, or edgy. And the yellow accents complement his purple fins, making them stand out further. Leech and Paddi are also a purposeful contrast to each other, as a way to balance them out as a whole, and to amplify their traits in a character foil. They are warm and cool, short and tall. Paddi has negative space on the top of her head. Leech has negative space on the sides of his head. Paddi has wider legs and larger feet, while Leech has wider shoulders and larger shapes on his head and torso. And these are some ways I can visually represent them and make them stand out for their personalities. It's pretty easy to take one look at them and already understand the vibe that these characters will convey. Before I learned how to draw, I would always start by writing out lists of every one of my characters, because it was the primary way I was able to conceive them. I would also try making my characters through character customization apps when I couldn't draw them myself yet. And if you're totally new to drawing, this is one really helpful way to get a visual reference and flesh out the traits you want your characters to have in order to accurately represent them. Some characters can stay in the idea phase for quite some time, and I have never experienced drawing a character for the first time and them looking exactly how I want them to. It always takes multiple tries, and their designs can still evolve a lot over time. I actually have characters to this day that I still haven't drawn yet. But let's say you want to try it another way. Let's say you don't have a character in mind at all, and this time, you'll need inspiration from an already existing visual reference. Now, whatever this visual reference is, can be anything. This is something that is completely up to you. Similar to the way you'd build an art style, it can be very helpful to find things you're aesthetically attracted to and work with those elements to build your design. This isn't something that I do as often, but I do have one character that I can use for this example. To give some context and to give you my thought process, I have a character named Taka, and at one point I had doodled this picture of her name and stuck it on my wall. One day as I was looking at it, I started thinking about the shapes and colors I had used, and it gave me an idea for a new character. I like the color palette and I like the way the outline went from light on the inside to dark on the outside. So I began to think of a skeleton. And that's how I came up with Hollee's design. When I first drew Hollee, I actually had no idea who she was or what I wanted to do with her. But as I continued, I started to develop her more based on her design alone. I was basically able to do the reverse of what I described in the first method. This time, I could observe her features and read into what they were implying about the type of character she would be. And that is how I was able to acquire the details and background information that would create her personality. Another way that I like to give myself an idea or reference is by taking a concept and turning that into a character. A good example of this is my character Jing. The first time I saw a glass frog, I thought, now this is a character. So I named him Jing, meaning clear in Chinese, and I gave him glasses. I noticed it's actually pretty common for artists to design characters this way, by making them based on animals or foods or emojis or mood boards or anything that can give you an idea. It's also possible and pretty helpful to use a combination of any of these methods when creating a character. A lot of my characters have been designed in different ways and based on different things because I continue to make so many of them. Because when you think about it, character designs are all based off people. It's just a more exaggerated way of interpreting the different designs that real people actually have and how they style themselves. So of course this includes animals or foods, or any real thing that you can draw inspiration from, by analyzing the shapes, colors, and features it uses. The next important thing that I like to keep in mind is that I want my characters to be easy to recognize. One way that I make sure of this is by giving them readability. So I will often draw a really tiny or simplified version of my character, so that I can make sure that they're easy to recognize from a distance. Or you can look at your character's silhouette. If you get it right, you win. You can also gauge readability by zooming out on your canvas, or by using your navigator for reference. Or, if you're doing traditional, you can look at it from across the room. Another thing I've done for fun when redesigning my characters is drawing them as if they were a plushie. I find this to be another good way to break down their design and see how it looks when simplified. So if I imagine seeing this plushie somewhere, I can be sure that the character would be recognized. Another tip for creating a design that's readable is by making your character's design relatively simple. Level of complexity will vary between art styles, so feel free to add the details you want. As far as the most recognizable shapes and colors of the character, however, it should feel natural to be able to reduce these into simple shapes from a distance. It comes across as more straightforward, because instead of picking up on all the details that our brain likely will not remember, our brains will recognize these elements that are easy to read, which makes the entire design more memorable or iconic, if you will. This is a scenario where less can be a lot more, and especially if you plan to draw your characters repeatedly and consistently, having a straightforward design will help you achieve this. One more important way to improve the recognizability of your character is by making sure all of your characters look different from one another. In most cases, you probably wouldn't want all your characters looking the exact same, because it can be much harder to tell them all apart and allow them to stand out in this way. Unless, of course, you want to do the opposite of this on purpose, like Tenten from No Straight Roads, for example. But notice how even Tenten has a variety of different colors and silhouettes, making their designs a lot more interesting. One of the best evolution examples of this that I can think of is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Notice how the very early depiction of the turtles had them all looking the exact same. apart from the color of their mask and whichever weapon they may or may not be holding. If I were to take their masks away, or use only their silhouettes, it is not possible to recognize any of them. But over the years, different artists were able to improve the readability of these guys by giving them different body types, different masks, different skin tones, and different features, such as various eye shapes, face shapes, teeth, freckles, etc. It's always good to make sure your character is being represented by not only one feature, because real people don't have only one feature. It's much easier to connect with and perceive a character who expresses a variety of traits, because it gives us a whole lot more engaging information to go off of. One last thing that comes to mind when I think about the design of my characters is cosplay. I like to try and imagine what a cosplay of my characters would look like, and use this as another way to decide if the design is recognizable. If I saw a person dressed as this character, would I instantly know who the character is? Or could they easily be mistaken for someone else's character? If so, it lets me figure out how I want to improve the uniqueness of what my character looks like. Your character is like your child. You want to give them what they need in order for them to develop and become their own person. Characters are the reason why I started drawing in the first place, because it's so important for me to be able to depict them for a ton of projects. So make sure to spend plenty of time with your characters, and have fun with the process of drawing and designing them. The main things we went over that build a character design are personality traits, shapes, colors, readability, and recognizability. I hope these ideas can help you think more about the ways you want to stylize, design, and find what's right for your own character. And if you have any of your own methods, it'd be awesome to share them with us in the comments, because everyone designs characters differently. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.